Hi there. I wanted to make this video because it occurs to me that over my life, over my spiritual path, my spiritual journey, I have absorbed a lot of different spiritual modalities and religious paradigms and spiritual practices and various ethical views and cultural norms, values, and beliefs along the way. Some might call this all baggage, spiritual baggage, um, which you can't just leave at the airport. You've got to bring with you, and obviously, the more baggage you have, the more luggage you have to carry. And but I think this is inevitable. That's the first thing, and secondly, uh, if you get rid of stuff, you regret it later, kind of thing. So I tend to be a bit of a hoarder, I suppose. And a lot of stuff goes into the subconscious anyway, as extra storage space. Anyway, I think there exists a mysterious unity between at least four different categories of belief, norms, values, and beliefs that I've acquired along the way. And this video is really about modern Gnosticism, Gnosticism as it's practiced today, rather than how it used to be practiced, because Gnosticism is a living philosophy or living religion, a living faith, and so it changes over time according to various influences along the way, long over the centuries. But certainly, when I look at air, when I analyze the essential message of Gnosticism and analyze my own Gnostic feelings, as it were. It is very much based on a rejection, repudiation, renouncement, and even restraining of the forces of this world and the worldly elements that create our reality or form our reality. And you can't really get away from this. Matter is held to be evil, and spirit is held to be good. Matter is of dualism, and the spiritual is non-dualistic, which is of course an extension of the Gnostic idea, the classical Gnostic idea. In any case, and of course, I have had loads of people say, "Well, what is evil anyway?" Which of course is certainly a consideration and a question that might well be asked, because if you are thinking non-dualistically, then the answer is there is no such thing as evil, but also there's no such thing as good either, which must be of equal validity than the statement there is no such thing as evil. Um, After a long poem and explanation of this from one of my viewers, I was almost tempted to say, well, you quote the Pulp Fiction that give me a blowtorch and a pair of tweezers, and I'll get mad evil with your ass. Uh, that would be what evil would be, would really, in my book anyway. And there's a repudiation, rejection, renunciation of harm, of violence, the violence of this world, which, when you analyze it, is definitely there and definitely present within ourselves and within others, and within the collective and various human societies and human organizations. There's no getting away from that. So that's one point. But then this is mediated, I suppose, by a hope in transcendence, that the reality of transcendence supersedes dualism and supersedes the body and matter and the needs of matter and the necessity and the amorality, one might say, of material existence. So there's a belief in the final transcendence of the soul and of consciousness to a higher plane, and make no apologies for that, for use of that word higher, because then it applies lower. Even though in a non-dual universe there would be no higher or lower, because that would be a value judgment that just wouldn't apply in a non-dualistic universe. So you got this sort of hope in transcendence swishing around, as well as a fairly negative, pessimistic attitude to the world and to material existence. Um, so over here you have this rejection is and then after an analysis of the matter of material of the world, which is attributed to air, and then over here you have fire, which is a belief in transcendence and an aspirational attitude to, sort of the fire leaping up and to the sparks of fire returning to heaven. And each spark represents a soul on its homeward journey to non-dualism and to spirituality. But then, on the other hand, there's certainly a great influence of the 19th century romantic idea of nature, not so much red in tooth and claw, although that is it, but sort of the isness of nature and the beauty of nature, and the symmetry of nature as well, and the fact that sort of everything works out for the best in all best possible worlds as far as nature is concerned, and symbiosis. Muscles in adversarial connection to each other, but yet, and algorithmic existence and nature being a sort of, not just a fine watch, a mechanical system, but an organic system, an evolving system, an algorithmic system, even sort of green brain intelligence of who is it, Frank Herbert, in his short story The Green Brain, which is very very recommended to you, quite ahead of its time really. But you have this sort of 19th century inspired appreciation of nature, and of living naturally, naturism, and William Morris is talking about, using natural products to create something which is going to have heirloom qualities to it. Um, a little thing like a hair. We found a hairdryer. The hairdryer went wrong, and there's no way of getting another one because of COVID-19. So they actually found an old hairdryer, and this hairdryer is literally 60 years old, right? It weighs a ton. It's built like a tank, but it's still working absolutely perfectly. And the only thing that's ever changed on it is the plug. It's got a modern plug on it. And I think the previous owner actually cracked open the case and got to the engine and replaced the coils, or bushes as they're known. The old motors had these sort of copper coils, and they've been replaced, as well as the carbon brushes. And that's been done once in its lifetime. But there you are. That's an electrical item, which is like an heirloom. It's been crafted almost, made in Britain in the days before free trade and globalization. And one could wax lyrical about that, no doubt. But anyway, William Morris was, obviously was not even into electronics or electrical goods, but just, things like tables and chairs, a thing of beauty and a thing that would last forever, a thing of craftsmanship, which you take, made by a craftsman, a master craftsman, or his master apprentice, and some, made with craft and care and love and time and all the stuff that we don't have nowadays. Everything's built in obsolescence and waste and things like that, you see. So there's William Morris is a great philosopher to look out for the 19th century nature appreciation people, and Blake and Wordsworth, and Shelley. Not so much, but definitely, and before that, you've got Dryden, and you've got John Keats, a little bit, well, a lot later than Dryden. Anyway, and you've got the idea that nature makes people chill out. And industrial society makes people very stressed. And when people are stressed, they become rather impatient with each other and rather nasty to each other. Whereas if we lived in a natural sort of way, then we've been more chilled out, especially with our nearest and dearest and with our children. Um, so you've got this idea, and that's sort of, on the side of water, the element of water, which is to do with emotions. So we ground our emotions in an appreciation of the beauty of nature. We shan't go far wrong with that. And then finally, talking of grounding, we come to the earth attribution. And that's basically, exploring and celebrating the union between mind and body. So we go into the sort of hatha yoga kind of way of looking at things, which means, of course, yoga means yuj, which is union, or a yoke between two animals, two horses or bison or oxen. And one is the body, one is the mind. And when the mind and the body are working together, in a unified way, in a way which is dynamically balanced, then you won't get energy blocks in your mind and body, and you will attain spiritual awareness through using the body. In fact, so there's a recognition of physicality, of using physical tools in order to achieve spiritual ends, which makes logical sense, of course, because what other tools would you have apart from your five senses and your consciousness and the neuroactivity of your brain? So we are rooted in earth, despite rejecting it, as it were. So you've got all these thoughts swishing around, or I have anyway, and they are contradictory to each other as well, because you have transcendence on one hand and you have immanence on the other. You have a rejection of matter on one hand, and you have an appreciation of matter on the other. And yet all these sort of ideas and principles sort of flow around kind of in a sort of swooshy kind of way, in a balanced kind of way, I suppose, which leads to a practical Gnosticism for everyday life, rather than a theoretical Gnosticism, which is sort of found in musty old books and manuscripts and papyri and things like that, which is all very well, it's all quite romantic, but what does it actually mean for everyday living for modern people? And what does it mean to me, with all with my exposure to all the different ideas that I've been exposed to? So they all boil down to about these four principles, and as I say, these four principles are somewhat, at loggerheads with each other potentially, and you could get rather confused. Well, shall I appreciate nature, or shall I reject matter, or shall I be physical, or shall I trust in the transcendence of my soul? These are questions that sort of buzz around the mind, as it were, and one sort of reacts to emotionally, and they affect how you live, of course, and they also affect which spiritual exercises you're attracted to as well. So it's all a kind of a bit of a question mark, really. But as I say, I think that these principles, although they appear to be at loggerheads, perhaps complement each other in some mysterious way, and they produce a kind of a balanced energy, hopefully, which will make one, a better Gnostic in the modern world.